I've been looking for a house with no walls or no whispers.
This is Empowering Women Everywhere. I am your host, Nan Gill, and today our guest is Carol Hurst. Carol was a school teacher, and she's married to Randy, who was now retired from public service. She has 3 children and a grandchild, and her mission in life is to make a difference for the better of all of us, everyone around. So Carol, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me on today.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate it. I
yeah,
really
we're happy
do.
to have you, and I know you have a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and the groups that you're involved in. I know you were involved in the La Leche group and
Yes.
the Mama group. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when we started our family, I decided to stay at home. But during that time, I was also breastfeeding, my children, and I wanted to know more information. So I joined La Leche League, and then realized this is really something I'd like to be more a part of. And so I became a leader.
Right.
And also, I was a part of a group of moms who were concerned about the cesarean rate. So that's what the Mama group was all about, was helping to educate and help people understand that there is another approach that's more natural. So
right off the ground, you started working with these groups.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. As a mom at home with her kids, I was busy anyways with other things too.
So yeah.
Mhm.
And then tell us about your home. You made your home.
Actually, in the late 80s, 1986, we looked for a piece of land that was, so we could build a passive solar home, was our dream and vision.
And this was in 1986.
1986, and we wanted something, if it was going to have all that glass on the south side, we wanted something that had a beautiful view, and we found that. And it took us 2 years to find it, but we found that and started construction in the fall of 1986. And basically, Randy and I did a lot of the work, and we were also our own general contractor. So it was a very exciting time. At that time, we had 2 little children.
Oh, my.
And so it was fun, but we felt like we were on a mission of how important it is to pay attention to the types of materials you're using, the angle of the house and the windows. Everybody puts it facing the road. Our house doesn't face the road. It's angled to face the southern sun to get ample exposure, which we've gotten. And now we have solar panels on the roof.
Okay.
So our electric bills are nil.
Right.
Which is really nice too.
So you planned ahead.
We planned ahead, and we have a huge organic garden and fruit trees, and it was a field. So the other thing that you can do environmentally, of course, is plant trees.
Right.
So a lot of the trees that you see there, we planted.
You did it yourself.
We did it ourselves, yes.
So I'm going to have to get some of your organic fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yes.
So you have a passive solar house,
Mm-hmm.
and your children are all grown now. And
Yes.
then what happened in 2004 that changed your life?
Well, the big thing that happened then, a few years before that, my father had been diagnosed with a form of muscular dystrophy.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't do a lot of homework and researching the information, but I remember thinking in my head, that I walk like he does.
Oh.
I climb the stairs like he does.
Right.
I started seeing that some of my body movements were very much like his.
Uh-huh.
And so...
Now, is this genetic?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it's
Multiple dystrophy is genetic?
muscular dystrophy is genetic, yes. So it's a genetic mutation, which I'll go into a little bit.
Can you explain the difference between multiple sclerosis and muscular dystrophy?
Yeah. In fact, I'd like to do that because everybody gets it mixed up. They
Including me.
and and the way I explain it to them, that MS is an autoimmune system disease, nothing to do with the genes. Muscular dystrophy is a genetic condition that has come out of mutation, that there is, at this point, nothing for it. Okay,
But they're researching.
But they're researching.
So we know that you have 3 children.
Yes.
Are any of your children affected, and how
Yes.
do you prepare them?
So what has happened was Lindsay went with me to one of my appointments and decided she did not want to be tested. And I'm okay with that, because why? When you don't have anything that's interfering with your quality of life.
Right.
Leave it alone. Enjoy life.
Right.
Don't worry about it. And my son Adam, I could tell right away he does not have it. He said, "Oh, I'll go get tested." I said, "No, you don't have to get tested. I can tell by the way you run, by the way you walk, by the way you hold your shoulders." Because whenever I ran, my shoulders were up like this. And my father has those first movie cameras that came out for families. He bought one in 1958, and I was 8 years old. And so he's got my brother and I racing down the sidewalk. My brother's 4, I'm 8, and there I am trying to run like this. You know, my arms flailing. I'm using every part of my body to beat him as he flies past me.
Right.
That tells you too. Recently I had looked at it and said, "Oh my goodness, it's right there."
Yeah.
So my youngest, he wasn't very athletic, which I wasn't, and so he had some other health issues going on, some other things, and so he went and got tested, and his CK, they did a whole blood work on him trying to figure out what was going on, which had nothing to do with muscular dystrophy, but they found his CK levels high.
Oh, okay.
So he is waiting for the final genetic testing.
Right.
So anyway, so yes, 50-50. 50-50 genetic passed on.
Right.
Yeah, no matter what you do with your habits.
But we do have some research going on, so if you want to contribute or find out more about how you can get involved in helping the situation, go to Carol's website.
Yes, okay. In 2004, I was feeling weaker. Now, of course, it just happened to be the menopause time of my life as well, and I, can't help but think what part that may have played in it, but I noticed my weakness. Right. So I went and got my first diagnosis, which took a nerve conduction test, and also they took my CK levels, which is a blood test, and the CK levels are one of the first.
What does CK stand for?
It has to do with your creatine in your system, how much your body's making, because it's a protein enzyme that our body makes.
Right.
And so that's one thing I did look up to see if Muscular Dystrophy Association had done any studies on adding it to your diet. And actually they had, and found that it made no difference. So there was still more science to go on, you know how it just keeps evolving. My father had the same test that I had, and with the muscle biopsy they did find some myopathy in there, but nothing of significance. So I let it go.
Right.
I had that diagnosis that was labeled limb-girdle at the time, and I kind of let it go, because what am I going to do? I said, I'm eating healthy, I'm moving, I'm walking, I'm working my garden,
And you were still able to do the normal things in life.
I was still able to do all of those things.
Right.
So I, put it on the back burner.
Right.
And then a few years later, I broke a foot.
Oh.
And that's
I
when...
remember hearing when you did
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And so I decided to go get further diagnosis. And so I called the MDA clinic, and I told them I didn't like what was happening with me, and I had broken a foot, and that I'd really like to meet with someone and learn more. So I set up an appointment with the clinic that is in White Plains,
Okay.
and went to Dr. Holstein. He's been working in the field for 40, maybe 50 years, so I felt like I had someone who has seen all the history happen with this. And so so he did blood work looking for the gene. And
So muscular dystrophy is caused by a gene.
yes, it's caused by a gene being mutated.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended up with not only blood work that they didn't find anything
Right.
because they looked just under limb girdle.
Uh-huh.
And actually what I have is a congenital muscular dystrophy, not a limb girdle, and so did my father have a congenital muscular dystrophy.
Now, what is limb girdle?
Limb girdle is there's actually 27 different kinds because it affects the large voluntary muscles
Okay.
of the body. Okay? With congenital muscular dystrophy, it's not necessarily that. They get affected first, but it's other things as well. So with the second test I had, which was actually a saliva test,
Uh-huh.
and that was done through Emory University, in that test they found that the collagen 6A2 gene was mutated in a dominant form, meaning that no matter what, it's that. And if you understand, if you remember high school biology, the blue-eyed and the brown-eyed thing,
Right.
you'd realize that passing, if you've got one parent with that dominant gene,
Right.
it's going to hold, if it gets passed on, it's going to hold. So it's like 50-50.
Right.
So,
Now, all
Yeah.
multiple dystrophy is not genital.
oh, it's all.
It's all.
It's not congenital, but it's all genetic related.
Okay.
It's all mutation of the gene. How these mutations happen is something that they're investigating. They
Yeah.
don't know.
They're doing so much with that now.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
So one of the, so I find it fascinating because, the type I have, it's actually the matrix that's on the outside of the muscle that has actually it has the genetic mutations in there, and that matrix is what helps the muscle to relax and contract.
Yes.
And so you end up with contractures. So, and which is why my foot, I broke it twice, sprained it once, broke it twice, and the same foot.
Because the muscle contracted?
Because of the Achilles tendon
Oh.
and the, the fasciitis thing. Those two things in the feet
Yeah.
tend to be tight and like stuck in a hard type of position. So,
Right.
so the minute you start to trip on something,
You're gone.
you're gone. Yes. So
So now you be very careful.
now you be very careful. You kind of have to
Yeah.
learn your limitations.
I've
and
started to be very careful anyway. I think people should be careful as they walk.
Absolutely.
Because really, when you think
Absolutely.
about walking, I mean, we're standing up straight. I mean, how is that possible?
Right.
All the other animals are on 4, and we're walking around on 2 feet. So we do
Right.
need to be careful.
yes, we do. We do. And so, so for me, what has happened is over time, that matrix, that mutation works into the muscle.
Oh,
And so that's what's going on why it progresses.
right. So
Because-
they're doing a lot of research on this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that you're starting to do some fundraising
Yes.
to help with the research and
Yes.
also help with people that have
Mhm.
MS.
MD.
MD.
MD. Yes. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, basically, for the fundraising, there is a walk that's coming up where I'm going to walk it with my
With your walker.
husband
And your walker.
and my walker. Well, well, with
Well, looking at you, you would never know you had a problem.
well,
looking
thank you,
gorgeous.
but I do.
Yeah, so you have to
And
be very careful.
you have to be careful. And also the clinics. The fundraising would help with all of the things, the services you get at the clinic.
Right.
Not only do you see the neurologist, the head doctor there, but you also see a breathing specialist. So I'm always being checked for CO2 levels
Right.
because the diaphragm starts to weaken and you can't empty out your lungs.
Right.
So it takes a specialized trained.
Is that COPD or
No, no, it's
different?
it's different, and the treatment is different. The type of things that you need to keep enough oxygen in and not too much CO2. CO2 is what makes you really tired when you have too much of it.
Right.
So that's important, and also, there's other things that happen too, because with my father, who recently passed away, the muscles in the neck as well weakened. So the swallowing, the breathing, all
Right.
of that was being affected.
Right.
So with the fundraising, so there's funds raised for that, for the research, to get and to figure out how they can do something to change this,
Right.
and also for finding out why. And then the other thing is there's actually a whole group part of the organization that also lobbies
Oh, okay.
for the right type of facilities out there for us,
For people with disabilities.
for people with disabilities, for the whole gamut, no
Now,
matter
if somebody
what.
wants to find out about your fundraisers, what's your website?
So you can go there and you can donate and be a part of that. If you live in the area of Orange County, New York, or close, a friend of mine in Pine Bush who runs a fitness studio is also doing a fundraiser.
Yeah, but they can find out all that information
They can
on your website.
They can contact me and find out all of that information, yes.
Now tell me a little more about the lobbying.
Well, one of the things is we need the right type of facilities. Okay, so today I'm in a Facebook group with people with the same type of condition. And today one person posted about a woman who, was basically abandoned because her car broke down, and there she is with her motorized wheelchair.
Oh my.
Because there's cars that are set up so that you can
Right.
continue living a full life, but when it took 17 different taxi companies, she called, only two had a handicapped taxi to
Oh,
come
my.
get her, and those two were busy.
Oh my.
So, and that probably meant one car each. And that
Yeah.
was in Orlando, Florida. When I think about that, oh my goodness, there needs to be some sort of ruling on that.
Right. So
And
they
then-
do lobbying to change the legislation so that handicapped people can function.
Right. Lead a normal life, because, someone with muscular dystrophy, we go to, I'm thinking of the people who are handicapped as they're young.
Right.
They go on to university and college, and one person with a worse type of condition than I have, she's teaching school. And of course, she
So
doesn't.
you can lead a full life.
You can lead a full life. It's just the group of us need special things out there, and we need rules about it that are standardized.
Right.
So where the grab bar is placed in a handicapped bathroom, how they're placed, and the type of grab bar, angled, not not where you're just reaching out to your side and you have no leverage, because
Right.
it has to give you leverage.
So people really don't know what has to be done.
No, they don't. And they say they have to put in a grab bar to make it handicapped accessible. They throw up the grab bar and don't think about the person that's going to try and use it. So my husband has seen many ladies' rooms. Because I go in and I go back out and I say, you have to come in with me.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And anyways, and believe it or not, Orange County Community College needs to get the message.
Okay, you hear that out there?
Anyways,
Yeah, but you were saying one thing about this elevator where the button for the handicapped elevator was so far away you couldn't get to it?
well, those automatic doors.
Right.
Yeah, the button was so far away, and this was for a conference I was at for my Shackley business. The button was so far away that by the time I got to the door, and I had a motorized scooter that for the conference. By the time I got to the door was closing, and it was like thank goodness somebody else was coming along, and I said, push that button again back there so I can get in.
You have to bring a cane, throw it in.
Yes.
So that you're sure
Make the door
be
stop
able to
and
get
open
in.
up. And also, even at the Orange County Mall, the buttons don't work.
Yeah.
I went up to one to go in, and the button didn't work. So, I mean, thank goodness there's lovely, wonderful people out there that realize that you can't get in.
Right.
And they hold the door for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think something for everybody to remember is that when you use a handicapped stall, to leave it clean afterwards, because people with handicaps,
Can't clean it.
well, I have stuff carry in my pocketbook to clean it, and everything, because it's
Yeah.
we need it clean.
Well, you have to always be considerate about other people.
Yeah.
I know.
So one of the things I wanted to mention is Spain was, when we traveled to Spain,
Okay.
the handicapped accessibility there was better than any place we saw.
Anywhere.
Yeah, especially Barcelona. It was fantastic. There hop on, hop off buses. There was somebody on all of them to help you.
Really?
And I'd like to see public transportation be like that, where
Right.
the bus comes down so you can roll right on, so that there's another person on the bus other than the driver, just to watch out for handicapped people,
Right.
to make sure that everything's functioning right. There's so many things that we could put into place that would be so helpful for whether they have muscular dystrophy or they have some other health challenge.
Right. And you were saying that when you found this out, when you became, when you have a disability, that you're not treated the same as other people.
Well, there was, with my broken foot, Randy was pushing me in a wheelchair, and you realize that even when I was in the scooter at the conferences, they don't see you.
Oh.
They don't see you. They bump right into you, and then, so I'm always making noise.
Well,
And-
you need a
and
cane. Come on. Wait,
And whoever's with me, they talk right over me and talk to the person that's with me.
Oh.
And haven't acknowledged me, and so I make sure I pipe up, but it's something for everyone
to be aware of.
to remember that there's nothing wrong up here. It just
because
happens
you're in
our
a
legs
wheelchair.
don't work right.
Yeah.
So there are some challenges.
So you were telling me about a book that you had read.
One has a form of ALS.
Uh-huh.
And his best friend Patrick and he have done lots of things together and been a relief for his wife to help with him so that she could spend time just taking the kids places and stuff that he wouldn't be able to go as he got really bad. And so they decided the two guys, Justin and Patrick, decided to do the Camino Way in Spain, and that 500-mile trek, and
He pushed him
he pushed him
500 miles.
500 miles
Wow.
with help. Not necessarily help they planned on,
Right.
just help they picked up along the
Oh,
way.
how nice.
Isn't that nice?
That must be a beautiful book.
Oh, it is because it's a story of determination
Mm-hmm.
and of love and care for your friends,
Right.
and also a statement that, you know, just because you're this, and listen,
Just because you have a disability.
doesn't mean you can't go, see, do things, get out and about, not feel like, you know, your whole world revolves around very small, but you have possibilities.
Right. So Carol is really an inspiration to all of us. She's an inspiration to me as far as what she does, because she's just so amazing. She has this disability, and yet she's reaching out, helping other people, reaching out with the funding, raising money for the cause, and keep going, and it's just beautiful. So what would you like to say to people that are maybe facing the same situation you faced?
Probably the biggest thing is to accept it, but find a way to endure it with the right type of spirit. So to stay positive, to build support systems around you.
Right.
You know, without my husband, you know, there's so many things I'm able to do because I have that support from him.
Right.
And family and friends, and you build that around you, it really boosts your quality of life.
Right.
And that, to recognize what's really important.
And also, I think an important thing to realize is that it could happen to anyone. We don't know.
We don't know when a
I mean, if
disability.
it's genetic, maybe you don't
Mhm.
have that form in your family, but any day, anyone can be stricken with something. So have
Mhm.
compassion and understanding for people where they are,
Right.
because you
Right.
never know.
You never know, and also to understand that, you know, there's a path that has hope in it as well, because I look at all the work that MDA is doing in research. Maybe someday this condition, these muscular dystrophy conditions, won't exist.
They may be able to put in a gene or alter the gene in some
Mhm.
way to have you be able to
Mhm.
have use of everything again.
Exactly.
I know, they're doing
Exactly.
amazing things now.
They are, and the National Institute of Health, Dr. Bonneman and Dr. Foley are really doing a lot of work in that direction as well. So, and this is new. That's new research that's being worked on.
So if you want to get involved with all of these things, go to Carol's website. We have it up on the screen.
Mhm.
And there's a contact form. You can contact her and speak with her directly and get involved. There's so much work to do.
Yep, exactly.
So thank you
Exactly.
for coming, Carol.
Okay.
We really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been looking for a